Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my City of Champions podcast, where we talk with local Edmonton athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs to hear their stories, find out what drives them, and learn their keys to success. Today, I'm pumped to chat with Keegan Lowe, former Edmonton Oil King and Western Hockey League champion, current Edmonton Oiler prospect, and he just also happens to be my brother. Keegan is probably the second most competitive person I know, next to our dad, of course, which leads to some pretty intense but hilarious family gatherings. Keegan and I talk about his junior hockey days, turning pro, his first NHL fight, and a little bit more. Please enjoy my conversation with Keegan. Keegs, how you doing today, man?
Good, thanks. How are you, Shane?
I'm very good. How's training going?
Pretty good so far. Just down to crunch time now, so hopefully, gotta hope it's all working.
How's the new car treating you?
Very good. Very excited about it.
Who'd you buy it off of?
Glenn Sather.
Glenn Sather? He didn't drive it much though, huh?
No, must have been in New York a lot.
Man, I missed your junior days. I miss the days when we used to go to all your games, watch you pretty much dominate every team. And you guys had such a tight group of guys. You had buddies over at the house. You guys were always together. How do you think that happened?
I don't know. I mean, it was one of those special teams where right from the start, we struggled a lot our first year, and the core group of guys that were there the first year, went through all that together. And then when we started winning, we got to see how fun it was, and it became, everybody grew together. We were all kind of similar age group, and we kind of spent those 4 years together and went through the ups and downs, but we were fortunate enough to have most of the ups. And everyone was saying at the time that junior hockey is the funnest time of your career, and you're like, yeah, sure, when it's going on. But looking back, it was we were lucky to have an extremely talented team, and it was just fun to go out there every night and
Extremely talented is an understatement. I was looking at the list of past Oil Kings who have played in the NHL. It's you, Brossoit, Tristan Jarry, Curtis Lazar, David Musil, Mark Pissick, Griffin Reinhart, Henrik Samuelsson, and I don't know if you played with this guy, but Thomas Vincourt.
Yeah, he was there my first year, but he wasn't there through our winning days.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So he did all the lifting at the start.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you won the WHL championship at home?
It was amazing. I mean, it was, like I said, we struggled our first year. Then our second year we lost in the playoffs, and then in the first round, and then we ended up coming all the way through 4 rounds, and had a pretty dramatic winning streak through that too. I think we won our last 10 or 12 games of the season, and then swept the first 2 rounds, and then we ended up losing a game in the conference finals. We lost game 4, so it was just a really fun ride, and we went out there every night and we were having fun. It was most important games we've ever played, all of us, but we also it didn't seem like we were having tons of fun, and there were no nerves at all. So. And then coming home, Game 7, like I said, we lost Game 6 in Portland, and we came home and we got to do it in front of the home crowd and the city, and all our families were behind us, so it was super fun.
Couldn't have planned it any better. And you guys were obviously a pretty fun group during the season. Did those antics, let's call them, go into the playoffs as well? Or were you guys quite a bit more professional? You weren't unprofessional, but you guys like to have fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think things changed a whole lot when we went into the playoffs, and that was why we were able to be so successful. We knew what got us there, and we knew what we had to do and put in the work during the week to prepare for the next team or the next round, and then moved on to when we won kind of each round, we had our fun and enjoyed it, and then gone into the next task, and that was just kind of how our schedule worked in the playoffs, and it worked well for us.
So then moving into your draft year, the rumor was that you talked to the Oilers, or they talked to you rather, before you got drafted, and you told them that you weren't really interested in getting drafted by them. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, had some meetings with them, and the big question there was, if it came down and the picks worked out and everything fell into place, if they did have a chance to take me, if that was something I would have liked. And I pondered over it a long time. Obviously, I grew up wanting to be an Oiler, but at that point in time, I wanted to, just go somewhere else and experience something else and kind of pave my own way and, do it for me. Not that anything would have been different if I was chosen here, but, that was just very important to me at the time, and I don't regret the decision at all.
So the typical answer from most guys is like, I don't care who I get drafted by, I'm just happy to be drafted. Is that really true, or do players actually have a team that they want to get drafted by?
I'm sure some do, but I think you have to put yourself in this position to be able to have a team where you want to get picked by. Everyone probably has their favorite teams, or teams that are currently very successful, or maybe the opposite, unsuccessful, so might have room for you to come in and play earlier. And for me, I honestly can say that I remember sitting there at the draft and I really didn't care which team. When it came down to where we were guessing I was going to go, somewhere around there, as every team came up, I thought I would be in my head being like, hey, hopefully it's here, or hopefully it's not here. But
picturing yourself in that city.
But that wasn't it at all. I would just hear and wait until they heard, like, they usually announce the hometown or the junior or college team the guy's playing for first, and wait to hear if it started with Edmonton, and then I'd be like, okay, next one.
Well, so then I guess you were happy when you heard Edmonton Oilers or Edmonton Oil Kings from Carolina then.
Yeah, for sure. And the funny thing is, too, a good buddy of mine, Travis Owanek, we were like both kind of slated in the same in the third round area, and he actually went the pick right after me. So when I heard Edmonton Oil Kings, I was like, oh no, it's probably
You're like, guys, I've already been drafted. I know you all want me, but you can't get me.
So when I heard them say it the first time, I'm like, no, this might be Trav, or even Mike St. Croix was pretty highly touted that year.
Talk about nerve-wracking. Just sitting there.
So Edmonton was my first cue, and then but from there it wasn't over yet, because there could have been numerous guys it could have been too.
Yeah, fair enough. So then when you got to, I guess, Charlotte for your first season of pro hockey, what lived up to the expectation, and what was kind of surprising about the whole experience?
The experience was a lot, not different than I thought, but there's a lot of things you don't think about when you're in junior. I was lucky enough to live at home, but you just show up to camp, you get placed in a house, and you just worry about playing and I guess going to school when you're young. But you get there and went through the nerves of the first. It wasn't my first NHL camp, but like the first NHL camp of where I knew I was turning pro and I was gonna either be in Carolina or in Charlotte or possibly even the East Coast League. So all the nerves of that going through, and then got assigned to Charlotte, and then just basically starting all over again, like a 3-week camp, trying to earn my spot there. And then once that happens, having to find an apartment for the first time and furniture, and
it's a lot of new stuff all at once.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those are all the things you don't think about. You knew they were coming in your mind, but like they all come all at once, and it ends up going by super fast.
Did you have any rituals like in junior that you carried over to pro hockey, or did you just kind of wipe the slate clean?
Rituals. I've always kind of warmed up the same way. Like my schedule at the rink, my game day changed a little bit when I turned pro, because I had to cook my own pregame meals. Either that or go out and grab a bite to eat. In my first year, Victor Ask and I lived together, and we ended up, because we didn't want to spend our time cooking on game days, so we went out to an Italian spot for our pregame meal. So all that kind of stayed the same. And as far as like superstitions and stuff, I've always tried not to get into that, but it's really hard. It's really hard not to. Like, you have a good game, and then you remember something you had done before the game, even if it's just like the shirt and tie option you wear.
Man, it's human nature. Like,
and
the
I'm
second
like,
something good happens,
I should wear that again. But so sometimes I go with it and I wear it again, but sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to wear the other one. And then either way, either you're going to play good or you're going to play bad, and then it's going to be because of that, or it's not going to be because of that. So
I'm going to ask you about a specific date and tell me if you know what the date is. April 9th, 2015.
2015, the first NHL game.
First NHL game. Who'd you play?
Philadelphia
Flyers. So, first NHL game, first NHL fight, and second NHL fight in one game. I have to say, I was watching that game, and I remember you cross-checking someone in front of the net, and I didn't know who it was, and then I saw LeCavalier, and I just kept thinking, like, no, he's not going to fight him. He's not going to. Holy shit, he's fighting Vinny LeCavalier. So, can you walk me through that? Because that was insane.
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole game was pretty jittery in the first place, you know, like I was kind of a blur looking back on it. Everything that day or from the day before when I heard the news, but you know, I didn't even have the, you know, usually when I'm playing and I'm comfortable, like on my regular team and stuff, like, you know, every guy who's coming down on you, you know who you're battling with, but like I was just trying to, you know, play my game and make no mistakes. And then I remember the shift, I think he ran me pretty good in the corner on the forecheck, and the puck came out. It was up at the point, and we were just jockeying for position in front of the net, and I was kind of working him with the stick, and I might have got him, you know, below the shoulder pads with the cross check.
Might have accidentally on purpose got him there.
Yeah, and then he turned around and said, "We're going." So I mean, I was so.
So it was him that initiated it.
Yeah. So I was working him, and
yeah.
he was working me, and then he turned around and was going, and I was so like, I had no idea who it was. I had been out against the fourth line most of the time, but we were on the road, so I didn't, like I said, I didn't know who it was either until after, and yeah, it was definitely wasn't looking for something like that my first game,
no.
but.
Sure, made an impression.
Instincts just took over, and
that's good. That's why you train, right?
That's that.
So then I was watching the second fight. Well, I watched both fights, but I was watching the second fight again the other day, and he says something to you after the second fight. Do you know what he said?
No, I have no idea.
No idea.
It was so loud in there.
Yeah.
And like I said, the entire game was a blur from start to finish.
Do you think, like, with more, so say, well, junior is a little quieter, but say like in a normal NHL game, like, experienced guy, would they hear what certain fans are yelling, or would they, like, are you pretty aware of everything that's going on, or is it like just like a total blur and like total like pandemonium with the sound?
It all depends. It all depends on the game or the rink or the point in time. Usually, like, I mean, sometimes there's rinks you play in where you can, if you're talking fans, you can hear fans yelling specific things, and I mean, more common in like junior in the American League when the rinks aren't completely sold out and stuff, but in a rink like that, or even like some of the buildings we played in, like Portland and Edmonton and like the finals of the Western League, it's so loud in there that you can't really hear a lot of what's going on, even what other guys are saying sometimes.
Yeah. So this off season you signed with the Oilers. Is that a big deal for you?
Yeah, really big. I mean
was there any nostalgia that carried over from being a kid and a fan, or does that kind of get eliminated as you become a pro?
I mean, a little bit, but like for me, it was more just, you know, I've played 4 years pro now, and I've established myself as a steady American League defenseman. But I still believe, and sounds of it, they still believe in me having more potential than that. And I know I have a lot more to give, and it's not always the quickest path. So, you know, there's a few different teams interested, and Edmonton being one of them. I mean, I'm older now. It's been 6 years since the draft and what we talked about, you know, me wanting to find my own way and being more mature now. And I've proved it to myself, and I know that I can do it, and I know I can do more than I have done at the pro level. So if am able to do that in an Oilers jersey, then obviously make that much more special.
So kind of going in the same vein as paving your own way, you wore number 4 your whole career. If you did end up getting up to the Oilers, I mean, if Chris Russell weren't there, would you wear 4? And the other question is, would Chris Russell be like, nah, you take 4, man. It's yours. What do you think?
I've never met the guy, but I would definitely not ask.
No, you never ask
like
him.
That. Yeah, but I would.
If he weren't there, would you wear it?
If he weren't there, I would talk to
the big man,
Dad first, and I'm sure. I would think he would like me to wear it, but I'd love to wear it. It's the only number pretty much I've ever worn my entire career. I think there was one year like in Bantam or something that I didn't get number 4 because they had certain size jerseys and it was like the only big jersey, and we had a giant guy on our team that had to wear it. So ever since then I've been lucky enough to get 4 every year. When I went to Charlotte, someone had worn 4 the previous year and wanted to switch that year, so I landed there. And then when I got traded to Montreal and got assigned to St. John's, the same guy I got traded for wore number 4 there, so I got number 4 there.
It's a swap fours.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, if there's such a thing as destiny, I'd say that's a pretty good reason for you to be able to wear it.
Yeah.
So you're working out this off season. Who are you working out with?
Working out with Simon Bennett and a few guys we've been together for a long time training. Colin Smith, Reese Scarlett, Kyle Brodziak, and Ryan Stanton. We've been training together I've been training with Simon and a couple of the guys for probably I think at least 10 years now, and then as a group we've been together for the last 4 or 5 summers, so it's always nice to come back and see the guys in the summer.
What's the dynamic there? Like, it must be like you guys are old buddies obviously, but when it comes to crunch time, like, you know that you're going to push yourself and they know how hard you can push yourself. Like, it must be a pretty good situation.
Yeah, no, we have tons of fun. We push each other and we chirp each other and get the most out of each other. Everything becomes a competition in a good way. And
who's the most competitive guy out there?
I mean, me and Colin Smith butt heads a bunch in the gym. Not butt heads, but we're always pushing each other and seeing what the other guy did to see who can do more or do it quicker or faster or more powerful or whatever. So he's a guy I love training with because like I said, we push each other a lot. So it's good. And then we're all the same in terms of our work ethic. We enjoy going to the gym. We've got a good group and everybody's fun to be around, so it's good.
Yeah, you don't get to that level that you guys are all kind of currently at without having an excellent work ethic, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, like you said, there's no way of keeping up with everybody else because everybody's doing a ton. But at the same time, like I said, you have to have fun. Like if we're not going in there and having fun and joking around with each other, it'd be a lot of hours in the gym.
Yeah. You enjoy it, so you're
not
happy
wanting
to do
to be there. Yeah.
So what's an average day of training look like? Like, what today look like?
Today, so as we get later in the summer, obviously our training changes. But today we were in the gym. Our workout started at 8 o'clock, so I'd get there about 7:30, 7:40, and just do some stretching and warming up, some of my own stuff that I need to take care of, and then we'll get into a warm up, and then we do, like I said, it's later in the summer, so there's a lot more like quickness stuff. So we do a bunch of quick feet drills and stuff, and then get into some lifts. Today we had some lifts, lower body. So by the time it was all said and done, pulling out of there at about 11 o'clock, so good 3 hours in the gym. Grab some lunch, come home for an hour, and then go on the ice. So I was on the ice for another hour in the afternoon, and then by then pretty gassed. So
do you stick to any specific nutrition plan while you're out there?
I mean, in terms of like, I'm not super picky, but there's always like a plan in my head, because I always, in terms of more timing and the amounts that I eat, I usually have the same thing for breakfast every day, a smoothie and then some eggs and toast or whatever, or oatmeal, and then after the workout have a shake, and then there's lunch when I get home, and then try and have a snack before I skate, and then another shake after the skate, and then
you are always eating
a snack.
You're either eating, preparing to eat, or cleaning up from eating, or working out or skating.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit exhausting, but I mean,
are there any foods that you've gotten sick of? You're just like, you know what, no more, never again.
Go through phases. Like one week I can just eat like chicken or whatever the entire week, and like it goes down easy, and then the one week I just can't even. Takes me 5 minutes to chew a piece of chicken. So
tell us about the blender.
Oh, the blender. It only comes into play once in a while when I'm really need to get something in me, and I'm in a bit of crunch for time, and sometimes you're just sitting there trying to eat a plate of food and it won't go down. So that's when the blender comes into play.
Good old Vitamix.
Grind it up and it goes down.
So what would you say your favorite part about playing pro hockey is?
It's a good question because there's obviously a ton of things, and leave the obvious ones out in terms of just being able to play like the sport that you grew up loving for your job. I mean, that's obviously the easy one, but if you ask any guy that plays for a long time, it'll always be, the times just around the guys, away from the rink and off the ice, like maybe in the dressing room. But for me, it's all the times when you're with the guys, and at that point in time, it's stuff that happens that you just can't believe it's happening, and then you look back on it like after the season's done, and everybody's getting ready to go home, and you're telling stories like, do you believe that happened? And then you laugh about it, and you're like, yeah, that was actually pretty funny.
Moments you share with those guys, are there any particular ones that stand out over the course of the season?
I mean, there's a ton, and I could probably pull, a couple, or at least one from every year. But the biggest, most recent one I remember from this year this was 2 seasons ago, actually. It's just times like this where we played 3 games in 3 nights. I believe we were in the Midwest there, so I think we played the first game Friday night in Milwaukee. Then we played Saturday night in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's like a 4 or 5 hour bus ride, so you get in at like 2 o'clock, sleep. It's not a big deal. Play the next day. But then the third game on a Sunday, when you do play a 3-on-3 set, is usually an afternoon game. So I think we were playing at 1 or 2 o'clock.
It's insane. So night, afternoon,
yeah.
And you're busing to the next place after the first 2 games.
Yeah, exactly. So the first 2 aren't bad, but the third one is what gets you, because you have it's 2 o'clock. So from a 7 o'clock game, it's always the 5 hour. It's 5 hours less. You have to rest up again. So this particular time, we're going from Grand Rapids to Chicago. So I think it's about a 4.5 hour bus or something. So we leave after the game, pull out of the rink at like 10:30, 10:45 maybe. And everybody's got their food on the bus. You order something before the game, and we're all eating. And we get about an hour and a half into the trip, just outside of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and our bus breaks down.
Bus broke down in Kalamazoo.
So no big deal. We're sitting on the in a truck stop or something, and they got to wait for a new bus to come. So we're there for a few hours, or can't remember if they got a new bus or they got it going, but we're there for a few hours. And it was at the same point in time, we were just outside of Kalamazoo, but we were all on Twitter reading what was going on, and there was a shooting going on in Kalamazoo.
No shit.
A live shooting. So we were kind of following that, and we weren't close enough to be in the action.
In the town, like right where you were broken down?
Yeah, well, we were outside, so we were about 20 minutes away from where it was happening or whatever. But it was going on, and we're like, oh, like it was like one of those CNN breaking news things, and we're like, oh, Kalamazoo, and then some of the guys pull up their maps and realize we're right outside Kalamazoo. So that just adds to it. Nothing happened with that, but we ended up getting back on our bus. We were broken down for a couple hours, so we get into Chicago. I think the plan was to get into Chicago because we go back an hour, so we actually save an hour. The plan was to get in around 2:30 a.m., sleep until 10, have pregame meal, get to the rink, get going for the 1 or 2 o'clock game. But when we got into Chicago, we were at a new hotel, and all the there's usually 20 or whatever. There's 23 players, so there's 12 rooms of 2 guys to a room, 2 beds, double occupancy rooms, and all the rooms were 1 bed in the room.
No.
So, and this had never happened before, but it just had to happen on this night.
Yeah.
So we get in there, but at this point, we're supposed to get in at like 2, and it's like 5:30 in the morning, maybe 6, and they're trying to figure out this whole thing. Some guys are just like, okay, whatever, I'll sleep on the floor in the room, or 2 guys like, I'll share a bed. It's a king size bed, whatever. They're
Right,
too
your teammates, you shower together, you can sleep in a bed clothed together.
But some guys are like, no, I'm waiting it out. So by the time everybody gets to sleep and figures out who's in what room and who's staying where, and then you finally, unpack and get settled in bed, and it's 8:30 in the morning, and you're playing a game in 4.5 hours.
Oh my God.
So everybody, and then you at the end of the season, you just talk, and it's one of those like, I can't believe this happened, and you just hate it at the time because you're so tired. And
you're mad, you're angry.
You're like, how does this happen to me? But like sitting on that bus waiting for the new bus to come, and everybody's talking and telling jokes or playing cards. Those are the funnest times.
Yeah, exactly. When you get to just kind of shoot the shit and wait it out. And you were probably starving the whole time because you hadn't eaten in 2.5 hours.
Yes, I was very hungry.
So when you wake up every morning, what kind of drives you? What gets you out of bed? What kind of gets you going?
I mean, I still haven't done what I want to do. My goal is to play first play regularly in the NHL. My first goal was just to play in the NHL, but no one wants to just play. You want to be a regular, and then after that you want to have a successful career, and ultimately you want to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, I think that's the number one goal overall by far. However you get there, whether it's your first year or whatever, but so that's always in the mind whenever you're on the ice, and it's the middle of summer and you think if you should go out on the ice that day, or if you still have 2 months till camp, but you just want to. You think about the ultimate goal. And
so are you able to channel that, like in the middle of off-season training? Are you able to kind of, if you're maybe feeling sluggish or sick or tired or whatever, you just think like, no, like I want the cup, like I'm killing myself for this?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty easy. Like anytime I'm tired, it's you either think of that or you think about what you want to do and you haven't done it yet. That's usually it right there. I don't have to go farther than that. And then there's, you just know that everybody out there is doing something, and I just want to make sure I'm doing more than everybody else. And,
right. Competition's always improving.
Yeah, and it's especially in these days with, some players have whatever 30 for 30 series or like documentaries on following them around in the summer and seeing what they're doing, and social media and stuff. You see what everyone's doing, and they're doing something, and it's right there. You know that.
Oh, they're letting their secrets out. Really, what they should be doing is posting pictures of them with beer and partying every night.
Yeah,
I don't need to train. Look what those other guys are doing. Sidney Crosby can shotgun beers every night. I can too. Over the course of, it doesn't necessarily have to be your career, but maybe even your life, is there any like failure or screw up that kind of sticks out, but that is your favorite because you really learned an important lesson?
I mean, none that really stick out, but
screwing up on the ice or something like that, something in like a big situation where you're like, wow, I'll never do that again.
I mean, none that really stick out, but like they happen all the time, and whether they're in big situations or not, it's just you always remember, whether it's a mistake or just a dumb penalty or a penalty in general, whatever, or just like missing a prime chance to score, which don't come very often for defensemen. So you always remember them, and sometimes it's hard to forget about them if. There's years where you want to be in a defensive and a reliable defenseman, but you want to chip in on offense, and you're a month into the season and you still don't have a goal or something, and there's a crucial time in the game and you get a prime chance and you miss the net or something. Those are just like they always stay in your mind until you can right that wrong.
Right, exactly. Well, that's good to remember.
Yeah.
So here's a random question, but if you could have 3 guests over for dinner, who would they be and why? It could be anyone. It could be athletes, artists, musicians, philosophers, scientists, astronauts.
I mean, it would change all the time, but for me right now, I'm pretty fascinated with the whole Tesla craze and
Elon Musk
behind there. So he'd definitely be in there.
Dude, he'd be wildly interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't even be able to understand a bunch of the stuff he would say at dinner, but
the fact that he's saying it, I appreciate it.
I would still like to hear his plans, because what he's doing already, he must have plans for after that, and it's obviously going to be much bigger and better than what he's doing now. So
he's macro. He's thinking 20 years.
I'd love to hear that 10, 15, 20 year plan of what he wants to do and how he's going to do it before anybody else knows.
Any other two? Or just you and Elon hanging out?
Yeah, no.
Probably not enough food if you invite more people.
I think right now it would be just with all the craze of this fight going on, I'd love to have a chat with Conor McGregor and just hear what the real Conor McGregor is like, if it's the same as if it's the same as the Conor McGregor we see, and just talk about his training and kind of what drives him, because he seems like he's quite the animal in how he trains, but there's tons of people like that.
He's a popular answer, actually. He was one of the answers for my last guest, Drew, who's a boxer.
Yeah. Makes more sense for him.
Can you imagine though if he was just some like mild-mannered, quiet little Irish boy? Hey, thank you very much for dinner. It's very nice of you to have me over. Kind regards to the lady.
Yeah,
that's my shitty Irish accent.
I more want to know just if he's putting on a show and marketing himself, or if that's the real Conor, because I don't know if you can keep that up for an entire life. You wear yourself out.
One way to find out.
Yeah, exactly. So
Elon, Conor, and one last guy.
And then I'll leave one that I've always said when I heard this question is my dad's father, Clifford, because he's the only grandparent. He died when our dad was young, and he's the only grandparent that isn't alive now. True. And I've never met before. So I'd
respect.
Love just
good answer.
Hear stuff about his life. Heard a lot about him, and stories about my dad misbehaving as a kid.
Yeah, he sounded like a gem. Wise dude. So we'll end off on one last question, and it would be, if you had a young kid who was interested in being a professional athlete, what one piece of advice would you give to that person?
Definitely it was a young kid in any sport, but more specifically hockey, just because I've seen it and been through it and seen how crazy some parents and coaches and stuff are at an extremely young age. It's just to make sure they know just to have fun, their entire career, but especially when they're a kid, not to overthink anything, not to let their parents or their coaches push them to do stuff they don't want to do. Like, they have to, when the season's over, enjoy their summer and not be, getting bag skated in the summertime when they're 10 years old and stuff like that, because you just see a lot of kids when you're going to the rink to skate yourself in the summertime who don't look like they're having fun and look like they're just like getting pushed, and they're losing their love for the game that I love and tons of people love. So it would just be to have fun and not let anybody push you to do things you don't want to do.
It's a great answer. I think if you're not having fun, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Cool. Keeks, thanks a lot for this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Guest number 2 in
the books. All right, we'll talk to you later. See ya.